Hi, I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And I'm also the author of Witchman, a new superhero comic book which recently had a successful Kickstarter campaign. I saw Dune 2.
Amazing. Dude, it is getting rave reviews, and it's also like, it's a big hit right now. It's huge, bigger than they thought it was going to be for a big blockbuster like this.
That's interesting to me because I thought the word of mouth campaign, which again, sometimes the word of mouth campaign is kind of engineered a little bit too. Yeah. They kind of get some talking points going, but the word of mouth campaign was very effective for me. It was a bunch of people saying, I was kind of lukewarm about the first Dune, but this one's amazing. Yeah. This one's amazing. And so I was like, okay, well, that fits me because I was like, I thought it was all right. I wasn't blown away. I wasn't going to throw away the, Dino De Laurentiis.
We love that one. Yeah, I almost was going to put that one on.
That's the Italian Dune. That's Nana's living room with the plastic slip
covers.
That's
communion money, Dune.
Exactly.
That's walking around money, Dune.
That's a Dune. Yeah, that's an Italian
wise guy
Dune right
roll,
there.
Dune.
But so that I was like, okay, that sounds good. And I also thought like the second half of the Dino De Laurentiis Dune is the part that's rushed. Like the first half is great. Like all the stuff they covered in that first movie is so good in the Dino De Laurentiis one. It rolls out so nicely. And then, it was before they kind of had this idea of like splitting a movie into two. So it was like, okay, we're running out of movie here. We gotta, and so then they cram it in. So with this, it's like, I could really use a nice, nicely paced movie of like the second half of Dune.
They're already talking about a Dune Part 3. Was that, how did it feel like there could be a Dune Part 3? Did they mention it at the end?
Well, what I realized, because, it's largely faithful to the book, but they do change a couple things here and there. And the things that they changed make sense to me, but it seems also like, it wasn't like, we're going to take the first Dune book and break it up into two movies. It's like, we're going to take all of Dune and just like piece it together. So like it does not end as conclusively as the book ends. It does not end as conclusively as the Dino De Laurentiis movie. And or why do I keep calling it the Dino? It's a Dino De Laurentiis production, but it's David Lynch. I keep calling it the Dino because Dino. I mean,
he's a big personality.
Yeah, and you can imagine Dino De Laurentiis like waving his arms around the set and screaming and like, I want this, I want that. But yeah, it's a David Lynch movie. And when you do look at that original Dune, it's so David Lynch because it's so 1940s. It's so kind of like film noir. Like the haircuts and stuff are like David Lynch haircut.
Absolutely. And David Lynch has been on my mind too because watching Twin Peaks, rewatching Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's interesting like how Dune fits in as like into David Lynch's body of work. I mean, again, like we did an episode about that, so go, check that out too.
I'd love to revisit it again.
Yeah, but like, so those end conclusively, where this one it has an ending and there is closure, but then it's like, okay, now, it kind of segues straight into the next one in a way that like the books didn't. With the books, it was kind of like it ends, and then Dune Messiah, the second Dune book, is like, tells you like, since we last checked in on these characters, this and this happened, and like to kind of, so this kind of like a segue.
It feels like there is rumblings that a third Dune movie is and highly likely.
And the other way it makes sense is that the subsequent Dune books like do not have nearly as much plot as the first Dune book. Sci-Fi Channel made for TV movies of like the Dune books. And they just took like book 2 and book 3 of Dune and squashed them into one movie. And it was like perfect, because each one of them is, And so I think that's probably what's going to happen. Dune 1 and Dune 2 are the first Dune book. And then Dune 3 is going to be the second Dune book. Dune 4 will be like, they won't need to, I mean, they're really, scrounging around if they split the other Dune books into two movies.
And, Denis Villeneuve, one of the best directors out there right now. We love that he's doing the multi-part Dune movies,
Yeah.
but like with James Cameron, I don't really love it when the auteurs get tied up in one project.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I kind of want them to
have
them to
Yeah, because then you do like 3 movies and it's one thing.
Yeah.
Where they could do 3 movies that are three things.
James Cameron, just forget about him making something else besides Avatar.
Yeah, for the rest of his life, basically.
The rest of his life.
But yet, no, this, like, right off the bat, it starts off with, like, such a great action sequence. And the look of it, like, I like the look in this first one. The first one is a little monochromatic. And the second one has, like, a little more color. And there are monochromatic scenes. It's funny because the monochromatic parts are like even more monochromatic, and then the colorful parts are more color. But the first scene in it is this like amazing battle scene with like the sourdough car, and they're in these like, you know, levitating suits and shooting like these lasers. You know, really, really cool sci-fi stuff. And it like looks like the cover of a Dune book. Like it like takes place. There's a couple scenes that take place during an eclipse. So like everything's like bathed in red. Everything's like super red. Like it looks like, you know, like a Mars movie from the 50s or something. It's like, and it's just looks amazing. And then when the eclipse is over, then it sort of goes back to more sort of naturalistic, more sort of like washed out colors. But during that sequence, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I'm in this.
You know what's also taking forefront for the Dune promotion? The Dune popcorn bucket. Have you seen that thing?
I didn't see it.
Around?
Is there like a worm, a gummy worm in it or something?
The worm, like the mouth of the worm is the top. It looks very it's a crazy ass popcorn bucket.
I should have gotten it. You know,
it is insane.
There was a long line at the concession stand, so I wonder if that's what people were getting. I wish I would have gotten it.
It's the Dune popcorn. It's full of spice.
It's really some changes. There are some things like withheld for the next movie that I thought was kind of interesting. And there were also some changes made to the story that kind of made more sense to make it more to make certain characters like Fade Ralpha, the character that Sting played in the original Dune. They made him more a part of the plot because, like, when you read the books, there's a difference between like the books. I mean, there's a lot of difference between books and movies, but movies, it's like in a book, somebody can be sort of like a psychological presence, you know, because like you're reading about them, even if they're not actually in the room. Yeah. So he's like a little more in it. But he actually doesn't have a ton of scenes in the book. Like when you're looking at the book and you're staging it, there aren't like a ton of scenes. So they added him more to the story and gave him sort of a more proactive role in it. And then there were like a couple characters where like in the book, they'd have these sort of like surprise deaths that sort of like, you know, just come out of nowhere and are like, you know, to shock. But a lot of those characters, they made it so that you know, like one of the heroes could like get some revenge, you know, have like a cool battle with them as opposed to just like having them getting killed off screen and then it's like you find out they're dead. There was in my teen years, it was like, this is my favorite book. It's the best book ever. You know, like that was I could see like there's a certain age where Dune is like so important, especially if you're like a Star Wars fan, because it's like there's like a million things that I've encountered in life where I'm like, this is where they got Star Wars from. You know, and Dune, the book was one of those too. We're like, wait, there's sandworms. It's like that, you know, it's a desert, it's a desert planet. There's like these giant worms, like that giant worm skeleton that C-3PO walks past. There's the sand people are Fremen. And they're wearing still suits. They have these little suits where, you know, the eye, you know, there's stuff sticking out of their eyes and stuff. And, you know, the sand crawler and the spice mines of Kessel, they mine for spice. And, so, you know, so, and it was kind of like, you know, it felt a little more like you grow up, like when you're little, you're into Star Wars, but when you're a teenager, you graduate to Dune, which is a little more like,
we were like, we get it, you're reading.
Yeah. And you have the weirding way instead of the Force, and they use knives instead of lightsabers, and
I can't wait to check it out. I am gonna.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I you know, I feel like it's kind of unspoilable. Just, I mean, because you know, like you've seen the original movie, and like I've read the books and everything, so it's you know, so I didn't. It's kind of fun going into a movie where you don't even have to worry about spoilers, you know,
like. usually like I'm like clueless when it comes to like what the temperature of the hot new movie is. But I was trying to get a beat on this, and it's getting a good buzz. And they're already talking about the third one.
That's interesting because I was curious about it too, because I thought this could be a hit because I think the first one obviously did well enough for them to make a second one, but it seems like it also kind of had a long life on like the streaming services. So I feel like a lot of people who, everybody sort of got a chance to watch it.
You're right. It's kind of like the Darkman. It's like it's like the streaming version of like it did well on video.
Yeah, and so now it's like, okay, you enjoyed this streaming. Now here's the next one. Better rush out to see it. When I went to see it, you go there and you buy your ticket, and then the guy, a little display comes up of the seats, and I was looking at it, and he's like, okay, these ones are filled, these ones are empty, and I'm looking at it and it's like, wow, it looks like it's really getting full. I'm like, this is a hot ticket. This movie's gonna. And I saw like, okay, looks like I'm gonna have to sit in the front row if I want to get close. So seat 9. So I pressed the button for seat 9, and I said, yeah, and I told the guy I'd like seat 9. And so then I get my ticket, and when I go in there, I'm expecting this place to be packed. It was very sparsely attended, to the point where like I asked somebody, I'm like, is this Dune? And they're like, oh yeah, this is Dune. I'm okay, good, because it, when I bought my ticket, the map looked like it was just about full. So let me see. And then I was looking at my ticket.
The guy thought you said, "Dude, where's my?" It was a re-release of Dude, where's my car?
Yeah, Dune, where's my car? So it's kind of like that because I looked at my ticket and I pressed the button for seat number 9, and I pressed it, and I told the guy seat 9, and I saw it like change, like I saw it change to like the same color as like the other ones, and then and I said seat 9. I'm looking at my ticket. My ticket says C9. And so I'm a couple rows back, which is fine, but like I didn't even know seat C9 was available, but apparently it was. So I go and I sit there, and it's like 15 minutes before the movie starts, and then I'm thinking like, well, when I looked at that map was just about full. Nobody, and by the time the movie started, the place was fairly empty. So I was going through my head trying to think of like the theater, and it's like I thought, okay, maybe when I'm looking at the map, maybe what I thought was full was actually empty. Like maybe I had it backwards. But like I was talking to somebody else, and they're like, no, because I was saying, okay, when it's when a seat is occupied, when a seat's available, it's white, and when it's occupied, it's blue. And I pressed L9, I pressed seat 9, and it was what. So then I was thinking like maybe the guy pulled up the screen for like a different showing of it that was maybe like already full.
Yeah.
And then I said, I pressed 9, and then I said seat 9, and then maybe he realized at the last minute, oh wait, this guy wants the 8:00 show. So and then he just typed it. Oh, he said, what did he say? He said C9. He said C9. So let me put, I think maybe the guy kind of scrambled back there and did a bunch of stuff that I was included. So but it was a mystery that like bothers me even now of like what happened, and then I had like another kind of theory. I thought like, how there's all these like private equity firms that kind of like just swoop in and just like buy single family homes and stuff, and just kind of hoard them or what. Like they don't even need them or want them. They just can. They just kind of swoop in and
property.
Take them. Yeah, for just and then it makes it impossible for like a family to actually buy a house at a reasonable price. Well, I was thinking like maybe the same thing's going on with movie tickets, where like some corporation just like swoops in, buys a bunch of movie tickets just in case they need them, and then most of the time nobody shows up. Like it's like, oh, we'll send if we have an account show up or whatever, and we need to take them to movies, we'll have these seats ready to go, but then they end up not. Like
it's
I'm
like the theatrical version of like the suite at like the Penguins game or something.
Right, exactly.
Wine and dine.
Exactly. So that's my that's one of my many
Our
theories.
CEO's a cinephile.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Occam's razor would say like, yeah, I probably just mistook the occupied for unoccupied and unoccupied for occupied. But I don't. I went through the detail. I don't think it was. So I'm
You pull like the ball game thing, like the pirate game. Like you're down in like the front row. The usher has to come. The people come. In, and he's like, sorry. You're like you have your feet up. You're eating like a dugout dog or whatever.
But no, the movie was so much fun, so great. There's a couple things. I mean, I feel like, and the ending's great too, but it hasn't replaced the Dino De Laurentiis Dune, and especially the ending. Like the ending, like I love the ending and how it has like kind of and we talked about the relationship between Dino De Laurentiis' Flash and Dino De Laurentiis' Dune, and it's got those. Got like and Flash Gordon had the Queen soundtrack. This one has Dune has a Brian Eno soundtrack.
Love it.
And so many of the musical cues are so similar. So it's like when, Paul Atreides is triumphant, there's like it's like a Brian May style, like arpeggio and stuff. Like, it's just so great. Like, and this, like, it again, great. This one has a great ending, but it doesn't have that.
No,
it doesn't have that.
Too much sheen, and like you want like the plastic couch cover on your movie.
Mm-hmm. It's like garish. And, like it's opulent. Like it's a bit much.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. That's what I want from a Dune movie. I want a Dune movie that's a bit much. Now I gotta say, this was the loudest movie I've ever seen, and that's a compliment. Like I loved it. Like, because it's, cosmic warfare. It's like battle on a cosmic scale. They're like giant, it's like giant spaceships blowing up mountains and stuff. And like the whole place shakes. The whole place shakes. And like I was saying, how I thought maybe the guy was buying the ticket from, like, pulled up the wrong showing, maybe, and then pulled up the showing. I was
sorry, sir, you're in the Berkshire Hathaway screening of Dune or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, I think they were playing Dune also in, like, the next theater over, because it's like the explosions and stuff, like the whole place shakes. It's so, and then like during some of the quiet scenes, you hear like the explosions from next door going on, But it was like if you like that cinematic experience where you're like blown out of your chair, like this is the movie for that. We have Dune Part 1 playing on the screen over here, and just having seen Dune Part 2 and seeing this one, like this one looks so clean compared to Dune Part 2. And I mean, story-wise, it makes sense that, like, it's a little more scuffed up. Things have gotten bad. They're out in the desert, getting sand blown on them and stuff. It makes sense story-wise, but it's a satisfying progression. But I mean, I just like that aesthetic so much better of the second one. Like, everybody's freshly pressed, because they just came from Caladan, the water planet. So it's almost like, everybody just got out of the shower. They're all clean. And then Part 2, they're just like, nobody gets a bath. There's no, you can't waste water like that.
Don Vito Atreides.
Yeah. It was so good. And maybe he's in Part 1, but I don't remember seeing him. But like, do you know who plays the Emperor?
I can't. I can't remember.
The Emperor is Christopher Walken.
For real?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I had no clue he was in the.
And his performance is delicious.
Oh,
and like when I
God.
first saw him, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. Because it's like Christopher Walken, but like Christopher Walken has aged into the role. Like, he's so old now that like you do buy him as like the Emperor from another planet.
Spice. Yeah.
Yeah, like his tics.
Well.
His tics weren't as evident. He doesn't have like a ton of lines, but he's mostly like this quiet. But he does bring a gravitas. There's a certain amount of humor. Like Javier Bardem's character Stilgar is a like. There's a lot of humor around his character and stuff. And one of the things in it, like Chani, the character played by Zendaya.
Yeah.
Like, she's like more of a character in this. Because she just shows up like at the end of the first one. But in this one, it's like...
more featured.
Yeah, she's more featured. And she does have more of a role. And like in the book, she was kind of like just there. Like, she was just like the love interest, and she kind of just like goes along with whatever Paul Atreides has to say. But in this one, she kind of pushes back, and there's a lot more like pushback against like the prophecies and the this and the that. There's a lot more pushback. It's kind of like a generational thing. It's like the old men are like way deep into this prophecy and like believing in Paul Atreides. And then the young women are like, hey, not so fast.
Yeah.
This is a Fremen problem. We don't need some, off-world or
streaming next, or were you?
I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, maybe a second screening. I like that. I mean, it was just like, it was just like, fun psychedelia, but like it was just, just a great thing to watch. Which I think the first one is like the first one is really nice to just kind of have on.
Oh yeah,
like you're doing something else, and then you look up every now and then, and you see the ornithopters and things. But no, I might see it again. I'm kind of on the fence.
I have a feeling it's gonna be in the theaters for a while.
Yeah, I think
because I think they really are making some bucks on like their the theatrical release.
Well, yeah, then they're gonna have the super cut of like the two together.
I didn't think about that. Maybe like it with some additional footage. Maybe it'd be like the Lord of the Rings, like
just a rundown of some of the changes from the book. Paul has like a younger sister who, like, his mom is like pregnant with her, and then she drinks the water. And this, I mean, this is in the Dino De Laurentiis one. She has the baby, and it's like this little girl who's dressed like a Bene Gesserit, and she's real creepy and stuff. As of the end of this movie of Dune Part 2, she hasn't been born yet. So they kind of like, I guess they're pushing her back for the sequel.
Yeah.
So even though like in the original book and in the original movie, she's part of it, and she's like, he is truly the Kwisatz Haderach, and I guess they're saving her for the next one, so it'll be like a couple years later, and then here she is.
Dune 3 is gonna.
The changes they made to this, I think, were changes that they made to make like a better cinematic experience, and I'm on board. I'm on board with that. And the like, I'm not as much of a fan of the sequel books as I am of the original book. Like I feel like because I think Frank Herbert did like 3 books, and then after that it's like posthumous. The Dune books get worse, basically. As it goes on, they get worse. But I mean, if they're gonna take liberties with the text to make a better movie, like this might be, some really cool stuff.
I was going to reread like Lord of the Rings stuff, but I might go Dune now. I might like dig into some Dune when it gets, as the warmer weather comes around.
Yeah, like
great experience.
Definitely check it out. Yeah.
Sorry you got to run in with a private equity like
right. I mean, like I was fine with where I was seated. It's just like it didn't add up because I'm like, wait a second, like the thing. Looking at that map, this thing was packed. There's like, okay, there's a free seat here, there's a free seat here.
They're like, this theater has been rented by Crypto World 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.